Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:37 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Jim Pethokoukis in this morning, Reuters columnist, CNBC contributor.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
President Obama with the news last night that Osama bin Laden is dead, killed in Pakistan, somewhere close to Islamabad, about 60 miles north of the city, in a compound, not in a cave, not hiding out in the mountains, but in a nice ritzy home, about $1 million home in Pakistan.
We've seen a little video now.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty comfortable.
Yeah, without the
bloodstained and comfortable.
That's right.
But comfortable.
Tori Clarke joins us now, former Pentagon spokeswoman for Donald Rumsfeld. Morning, Tori.
Good morning, you guys.
This is pretty good news. Your reaction to the death of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, it is good news. And I got to tell you, Brian, the first thing I thought of when I heard was the families. I thought what it must be like to be the mother, the wife, the husband of somebody who lost someone in 9/11. And they must have mixed emotions about this, but it must give them some sense of relief. So my first reaction was for the families. My second reaction was it demonstrates how hard the task is to get these guys and get Osama bin Laden, that it took years of gathering intel and then applying the right military assets to get him. And then I just keep going, oh my God, about Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
This says volumes about Pakistan. Because as you just said, he wasn't found in some cave, hundreds of miles away from anything. He was found in a very sophisticated compound in a city not far from an army base, an army compound of some sort. It just says volumes about what's going on with the Pakistani government and the Pakistani intel service, and not good things, by the way.
Yeah.
And Tori, doesn't this reaffirm what President Bush said during his term, that these terrorist movements, rather than being sort of these independent, amorphous things kind of floating around, they are deeply rooted in certain regimes and certain intelligence services, and you need to go after those if you really want to root out terrorism?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever root it out completely, but yes, they cannot operate completely independently of any kind of state support is too strong a word, but as you said, they cannot operate completely independently over a number of years without at least the complicit help of somebody in a government, in an intel service.
All right, so what happens with our relationship now with Pakistan? Do we have more leverage? Do we say, look, how the heck did you guys not know this was going on? How did you not lead us to this house some time ago? And we need a lot more effort out of you in the future.
Well, you've got to believe that those sorts of conversations have been going on for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been saying to the Pakistani government, the Pakistani intel people repeatedly, you have to help us more. You have to take more control of these ungoverned areas, those sorts of things. And so now I think we do have, as you said, a lot more leverage to say this is very clear, this is very obvious, and it's time to shape up. How effective that will be, I don't know. I think what's really interesting is it is a good day, and you hate to look to the bad things, but I think we have to be very careful and very attentive to any terrorist attacks that may occur as a result of this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the intel services had said for years that if and when Osama bin Laden was captured or killed, it was likely there would be some retaliation in Europe, in the United States, somewhere. So I think we have to be very, very careful about that.
Yeah, K.T. McFarland said the same thing. I'm curious as to whether or not there was a plan in place. I don't know if you can even say this or not, but there's a lot of controversy about how they got rid of the body, apparently, the burial at sea. Was there a plan in place? Do you expect that there was a plan in place that, hey, when we get bin Laden, here's what we're going to do? That they already had thought about this long before?
I think they thought about every second of every minute of this, including what they would do with the body. And I think it was absolutely the right thing to do. I'm sure there will be some conspiracy theorists out there who say, no, we didn't see him, we didn't see it. But set that aside, I think it was absolutely the right thing to do. And again, I'm such a goof about these things sometimes. You want to be ecstatic about it, you want to be cheering, you want to be saying, USA, USA, but the absolutely appropriate thing to do for the long-term goals that we have is to treat this as quietly and soberly as possible, and that's what they did.
Now, I have to ask you because you worked in the for the Department of Defense for quite some time, and you worked with Donald Rumsfeld. Have you talked to anybody? Have you talked to your old boss since the news broke, and all the people who work in the intelligence field that you know, the sense of relief and accomplishment they probably feel this morning?
I've not talked to him. I saw he was on the Today Show. I didn't get to watch, but I saw he was on the Today Show. I've traded emails and texts with a lot of people, and actually, the people who are still in the military, the people who are still in the intel communities, yes, they're glad they got it done. It was one of their priorities. They've known, just as we knew in 2001, that it was never about one person, one terrorist organization. He is one person, clearly an important one. How much leadership he's been exerting the last few years, unclear. But the task is far larger than Osama bin Laden. So there isn't a sense of, we're done, now we can move on to something else. There was a sense of, we got one piece of this done.
But did those people in the intelligence agencies or the military, had they sort of given up hope that they were ever going to get him?
Never. Knew it was. It goes back to what we said at the beginning. It goes to just how hard this is, and how it does take years of putting together one piece of intel with another, one person you interrogate with another, and putting those together, and then having these incredibly highly trained, disciplined military assets that we have. And you connect those two pieces, then you really have something, you have success. I never heard anyone say, no, we're not putting anything against that, we're not thinking about that anymore because it's just too hard. I've never heard them give up.
And we're learning that some intelligence may have come from Gitmo detainees, and apparently the courier who lived in this compound was a protege of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. So
right.
It all comes kind of full circle on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a piece of intel that you get in an interrogation 5 years ago, it might take 3, 4, 5 years before it can be connected to the other piece and make something actually happen. And it goes to the patience and the discipline of the people we have in our intel services in the military, that they're willing to see it out that long.
Now, what do you think about what this does for our role in Afghanistan? I guess there's two thoughts that we've been kind of kicking around this morning. That is, a lot of Americans are going to say, you know what, we went to Afghanistan to retaliate against Al-Qaeda, get rid of all of the terrorist training camps, and to get Osama bin Laden. We've kind of done that now. So maybe you might have some Americans are saying, it's time to get out of Afghanistan. And the other flip side is that we could use this momentum in Afghanistan to finally really get going and perhaps create a country that could thrive.
Boy, that question, I think, raises a whole series of really good issues, Brian. I personally look at Afghanistan and say, do the Afghan people themselves really want a stable representative government? Do they want an area which people aren't threatened and the neighbors aren't threatened? I'm not so sure about that. That's an entirely different issue. I think events going forward may dictate more what we do in Afghanistan, and by that I mean, although I don't think Osama bin Laden has been the primary leader of al-Qaeda activity around the world for some time, he was a leader. And now that he's gone, there's a vacuum, and nature abhorring a vacuum. There are going to be others trying to assert their leadership in Al-Qaeda who will try to move into that space. And the way to get leadership is to demonstrate you can make really, really bad things happen to innocent people. So I think there may be some events going forward that will dictate what we do and when we do it in Afghanistan and elsewhere.
All right, Tori, great to talk to you. Thanks for coming to the show. We appreciate it.
You too, guys. Take care.
Tori Clarke, former Pentagon spokeswoman here on W.